Welcome back to another episode of Rectalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, the founder of Rectools.io. If you're looking for a new supplier into your recruitment business, go to Rectools.io. We've got over 20 categories of everything you might need to run your recruitment agency, from back office, front office, and middle office suppliers. You'll see I'm not in the usual studio today because I'm on the road. My guest today has been kind enough to welcome me into their offices, and we're filming from here today, amongst a load of other stuff. They are official partners of Rectools and have been sort of supporting my journey with this platform and this sort of product that I'm trying to push out since day one. So without further ado, look, my guest today is Paul Cooney, Managing Director of Zodeq. Thank you so much for hosting today, mate.
No worries, no, good afternoon. Great to have you up here in this beautiful city of Chester.
Beautiful, mate. Yeah. As I was saying on the way in, I'm definitely going to bring my kids up here. They love this sort of stuff. We walk around Coventry, sort of the historic sites all the time.
Yeah.
And never seem to get enough of it. So
that's great city. Great,
beautiful
great to be here. Yeah, great to have you. You're very welcome.
No, mate, thank you for having us. Look, I think the obvious thing to sort of start with to talk about is kind of what your customer base have felt over the last 18 months, because certainly the general trend in the agency world is that 2023 was a really tough year. Then people seem to get strangely optimistic about 2024, and then the reality hit, and we're sort of a quarter in, and by the time this goes out, we'll be firmly into Q2, and not much has changed in reality. There's a handful. We've had guests on the podcast actually who have kind of bucked the trend completely. Yeah, they've grown year on year, seem to get the fundamentals right and have done well. But how have you found the last 18 months from your customer portfolio perspective? Because you guys are a wide range of customers.
Yeah. Well, I think if you go back to the pandemic, there was clearly a bit of doom and gloom around.
Yeah.
I think people generally thought 22 wasn't a bad year. People were bouncing back. Things were getting going again, but so 23 was difficult in certain sectors. And like you just said, we kind of see it in pockets. We've got a good mix of clients within the IT and tech space. So anybody kind of investing and growing in, say, the US, that market fell away in 23. We have clients in the healthcare space where NHS went through a tendering exercise, an upgrade of the IT, which kind of affected supply into medical and healthcare. So certainly seen it in pockets, but I think the general view was a tough year all round, really. But we did see some success stories as well across the portfolio, as you see across the country.
It's a funny one though, isn't it? Because again, I think the general trend was that we just got very, very good at delivery. You know what I mean? The demand was there, and so agencies were really, really good at kind of delivering on that demand.
Yeah.
Even during if you read the media, that we had a labour shortage across most sectors.
Yeah.
And agencies made a lot of money and made a lot of placements during that time. But almost, I worry that maybe they were lulled into a false sense of security, that's how kind of things were going to remain. And I know that a lot of the guys that I speak to in the agency world, business development is their biggest challenge at the moment.
Yeah.
What are your kind of portfolio saying in terms of that element of business?
Yeah. Well, I think we kind of thought it would just be a nice steady growth, didn't we? As you come out of the pandemic and everything would be nice and rosy.
Year-on-year growth every year. That's how business works, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're entrepreneurial people in the UK, aren't we? And we tend to look on a positive. But a question I get asked all the time is, do you know any good recruiters? Because people are always looking for good people. And it was quite interesting that despite some of the ups and downs of 23, there was still a record number of recruitment companies set up in 23 as well. So when you're finding some really niche businesses in there with maybe a small handful of clients that is supplying a really, really niche part of the UK. And we've seen all sorts of different connotations from your old style traditional recruitment businesses. We see lots of different niche businesses now. So, but I think the challenge is very much about getting good people, getting a really good loyal client base. I think some of the old disciplines of recruitment are coming back. I think what I've found is in particular that it's not just about putting a bum on a seat anymore.
No.
There is more consultancy involved now with recruitment, with the end client, to make sure that the end clients are getting the candidates that they want. So I think I quite like to see this specialism coming back in recruitment of a more of a consultative.
Yeah, rather than just
business.
order taking and
order taking and filling, putting bums on seats,
No, I
or
think
people in warehouses. It is a sort of a different, feels a lot different sector.
you made a couple of really key points there. I think though is the first being like, do you know any good recruiters? And it's almost like, because of businesses like Zodeq and like, incubator models and startup investors and everything else, good recruiters, it's so easy for them now to just go and set up on their own. So do I know any good recruiters? The answer is yes. Do they want to work for you? The answer is no, because actually they can work for themselves and make a better living, be it a work-life balance or money being their motivator, right? And then the other side of that is the niche piece, though, which is kind of, again, you don't need to grow and scale a recruitment business to, multi-million turnover and 5,000 heads. If you're very, very good at one particular area, and that can pay, your corp tax bill, your VAT bill, and give you nice divvies at the end of it, and you can just, make more than what you could employed for somebody, but actually have more time back. That seems to be the kind of the demand post-pandemic for people, which is, I want my time back, not pay me more.
Yes. Yeah, again, I think it's a mixed bag from what I see. I think there is an awful lot of lifestyle businesses out there. People working from home, they don't have smart offices and pool tables and table tennis tables. Like we went through that phase of having that in a lot of offices, like Google type offices. But we do have, I do see a lot of agencies where they are based from home and they're making a real nice living and having a nice lifestyle. We do also work with a lot of agencies that are quite ambitious as well, and I see agencies go on the curve and some complete the curve to exit. Some get to a point and say, well, I'm happy here. So it is interesting, but I think with the influx of more agencies set up in the UK, you are seeing more lifestyle type businesses, definitely.
Yeah, and that's echoed by the investment model as well, though, because there's businesses like 11 Investments and Recruitment Entrepreneur and stuff who cater now explicitly for that lifestyle thing, whereas 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case.
Yes.
It just absolutely wasn't on the table.
Yeah.
James Carl was not interested in investing in a lifestyle person.
Yeah.
Whereas that's changed. I think that says a lot for kind of the economy that we're heading into, which I think is going to be driven a lot more by kind of freelance and consultative sort of skill set sharing, if you will.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than the traditional employee model, I think what will end up happening is there'll be people that are kind of like, look, I'm really good at this. If I can have 3 clients that pay me, a total of this a month, I'll just work for these 3 clients and I'll dedicate some of my time to each of them a week. Because we're in a remote model. If they need me in the office, I'll go to the office for once a week or whatever.
Yeah.
And that I'm seeing a big growth of that in certainly the sort of like the outbound sales world and the marketing world and that kind of thing. Tech has always been that way.
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of bleeding now into our sector as well, where recruiters are kind of like, there's more way to do this.
Well, the workforce is changing as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You've got Gen Z and the TikTok generation coming through, and naturally they will work in a different way that old guys like me and you would have done it differently 20 years ago. So I think the market's going to adapt to that kind of generation, really, in that world and how they recruit in the future. You could argue some of the old ways of doing it is the best way, but obviously you've got to also embrace what the client wants and what the new generation is coming through as well. So I think the world of recruitment is always going to be fascinating and interesting, and who knows what the next 10 years looks like. It's going to be totally different.
It's a great time, actually. Yeah, absolutely, you're right, because I think the answer sits somewhere in the middle, right? It's not the old way. It's definitely not kind of all social content, kind of cutesy stuff. The answer's somewhere in the middle. And the trend I'm seeing is the businesses that seem to be getting it right are the ones that have got that blend right. You know what I mean? They've got the hybrid model in terms of their office working and so on. You've got the flexibilities, but they're also very, very drilling down on their things like their key performance indicators and kind of their vision and their goal and where they want to be, and they're really target oriented, which is the old-fashioned way of doing things, right?
Well, I was at Elite Leaders event last week, and we were talking about the TikTok generation, and somebody came up with a stat that when surveyed, under 21-year-olds use their phone. It's the 60. Sorry, let me get this right. It's using their device for a phone call is 16th on their list of priorities.
Yeah, makes sense.
They don't use their phone to phone. So if the old way of doing recruitment is picking up the phone and smashing out 100 calls, 200 calls, how do you change that emphasis to the new generation coming through?
What are the other 15 things people are doing with their phones?
Correct.
How do we as recruiters take advantage of those things, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it is a changing market, really, really interesting.
I think that's really important to understand though, because again, the traditional kind of just phone bashing isn't the answer. And I think now people are kind of realizing that, that isn't working either. You know, just extrapolating the number of phone calls they make is not resulting in an increase in revenue.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you've got tech that you can adopt that will absolutely kind of, you know, speed up your process and sort of the service and the quality of service.
Yeah.
So we spoke about this on the podcast that you did with us about a year ago now, and you were very kind of no, like I like it the traditional way, whites of your eyes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're a year on now. How much, if at all, of Zodeq kind of incorporated automation and AI into kind of process? Or is it still very much old school?
Yeah, so we're ultimately still a financial services business.
Yeah.
We're a lender. We are accredited by UK Finance, so there are certain things that we have to do as a business because of what we do as a business to fall in line with certain regulation. But where I've seen AI really change our business is some simple things really. Our documentation, how we get that signed now, how we do our director searches is all done through Smart Search now. It's all AI. You know, your ID can be checked by a computer rather than a human being sat in our office doing that for us. So our onboarding process is a lot slicker, literally through AI. With regards to our clients, I think there's been an emphasis on their database and how can they use AI and technology to clean up their CRM database, make it work for them as best as possible. Again, I get lots and lots of stats and information from the industry from various places. And I saw a stat the other day, 85% of placements, the people that you place are already in your database. They're already there. It's how can you get that out? And that's where AI can really help.
There's some great tech out there.
There's some great tech.
Bob Check have kind of recently won investment there. Their product's great. We had Alex Hardwell on the podcast last year with Radar. Again, similar thing. Just drills down the data and kind of pulls out based on all the vacancies that you've previously had. You know, that you didn't fill. Here's the candidates that potentially could have been suitable for them, and you just can find them because it's just a void of.
Absolutely.
It's just a data dump.
So that drives what happens in the next few years, doesn't it? How many people do you need to run the business? Clearly, you will need people, but the information's already there, and it's using the tech to get it out. And make
so, what do you think the future is of kind of if I'm a recruitment business owner and I'm like, look, I'm driven, I'm motivated, I want to grow and scale a recruitment empire, right? But all I'm hearing is you don't need people, you need tech, you know, and kind of you can grow out your revenue and not have to scale headcount wise. Like, where do you think the kind of the model is then moving forward?
Yeah, again, really difficult, really difficult one to answer, Nitin. I think I still, my own belief is that recruitment is very much still a people industry, and there's some great people in the industry that are really experts at what they do, and I see that time and time again. I meet people all the time, so very much still a people industry, but I think it's about how you can use technology to your advantage and manage your client and your client relationship in the best possible way. And for me, it probably ends up being a combination of the two things working in tandem. Clients becoming more automated, but as specialisms become more niche, you still need that consultative nature, and I believe it's a person that would do that rather than tech. But what I do know, it'd be very interesting, and I also know it'll probably look completely different in 5 years' time than what it does now.
And then the 5 years after that will be again flipped on its head, right?
Of course.
It's I agree with you actually with the relationship piece and the people piece, because I think too often what ends up happening with recruiters is they get so bogged down in the admin-y, detail-y bit that, you know, they don't then have the time or the mental capacity to then focus on that relationship building piece and building the trust and the empathy and providing value. Because it's really easy for people like me to sit here and be like, guys, you know, what you need to be doing is, you know, creating value for your prospects without the need for a transaction. Well, that's easy to say, but I've only got so many hours in my weekday, and I've got to resource in that time and do business development. And now you want me to do shit for free for clients that may or may not buy from me. Like that don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, that's where I think the sort of the secret formula is actually, there's this tech out. I mean, right. So I created a GPT that we're toying around with at the minute, and we will put onto the AI playground kind of in the next month or so. And the idea is that it's a recruitment resources co-pilot. So what it'll do is it'll say, right, okay, so you're supporting Zodeq are a new client, and maybe you're working a vacancy that you haven't quite got a depth of knowledge on yet, right? So perfect, but you want to, you've won that relationship and you want to do well. So you upload the job spec first, and then the links to your website, any client notes that you've got, any information that will help the AI understand and formulate, right, who is this company and what are they about?
Yeah.
And then you upload your candidates that you want and that you want to submit, right? So I've identified these 5 candidates. You upload those in. And what the GPT does is it analyzes the CVs against the job spec and everything you've said. And it basically provides you a ranking out of 10 as to the suitability of that candidate, why they're suitable and why they're potentially not suitable. But also gives you sort of 3 or 4 questions to go back to with the candidate and say, look, I really want to submit you. However, I've got some questions around these bits. Could you just give me some more clarity there? And then obviously you can upload that information back in, and it will kind of change its ranking. But then also it spits out a brief about why it thinks that. So, hey Paul, I'm sending you these 4 CVs. These are the reasons why. Yeah. Right. I trialed that because I still do a little bit of recruitment for sort of old clients of mine. I trialed that, and out of 7 CVs I uploaded, it came back with 5 that were like 9 out of 10 suitable. Really? Yeah. And those 5 all got interviews. Yeah. Now they didn't get the job because that's the bit that the AI can't do, right? 2 no-showed the interview and so on and so forth. Human beings happened. Yeah. But I was sort of like, shit, we're onto something here. This could really help save a lot of time. Yeah. And if you can incorporate that into a CRM, then great. You got a load of applications come in, and it automatically looks at them and says, hey, here's what I think are the best candidates for you. Here's the reasons why. And here's the ones that are outright no. Do you want me to reject them? Yeah, auto reject, get rid of them. Well, there as a recruiter, you've got so much time to then go, I can now focus on relationships, content, my personal brand, my business branding, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've seen not something similar, but I've seen that with performance management, similar sort of tech. So you can put a profile of one of your employees in for a one-to-one or an annual review. You can Myers-Briggs test them or something like that. And it will spit out a summary of that person and give you tips and hints of how to manage that person and what to talk about. So really interesting. And some of that is really it's going to be quite game changing, I think, for a lot of areas of the sector, definitely.
I'm not a coder.
Yeah,
I'm very good at prompting GPT, right? That's the bit that I've been focusing on in the last 12 months, is really understanding how this machine works and how do I get the best out of it. And there's so many low-code, no-code tools out there that actually I don't need to be, I don't need to spend sort of 30, 40 grand in building out an MVP to take it to market. A tool like that, any recruiter sat there at home right now in their shed or in their office with their team could go on to GPT and be like, right, let me create something similar, and we'll just use this as a tool in our office to see if it works. You know what I mean? Yeah. And kind of build out workflows that help you kind of get the best out of the people that you're searching through. Yeah. I had Gabby from Tool.Raccoons on the other day, and she was talking about the strength of a good Boolean search, right? And there's times where she's like, people think that they're really good at Boolean searching, but then they use their tool, which is powered by AI, and then it finds another 40 or 50 candidates that it missed. Yeah. And you kind of like, there are simple things that we could be doing as recruiters actually. Yeah. To kind of, double or triple the revenue that we're seeing. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, completely agree with that. We built our own CRM over the last year or so, a system called Preview. Mm-hmm. So whilst we never take the human out of what we do, Preview will literally give us a credit decision on a new inquiry that we get through. It will pull data from everywhere. If our prospective client gives us open banking authority, we'll pull through the open banking, give you an analysis of the bank statements.
Which is a great starting point, isn't it? It just steers the conversation, doesn't it? Yeah. Rather than you having to sit there and suss out things, this person feels like they might be hiding something. It's, look, this has been brought to our attention. Yeah. put my mind to rest and we'll do business. If not, then no.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of part that I think will never change. And we touched on this last time, which was, with the industry that you're in, it is very much about that person, right? Because you can have a string of bad luck, but that doesn't mean that you're inherently an unlucky person, that you're never going to make the right decisions ever with your finances, right? And actually having the right finance partner, you can, you by being there to support them, that's sometimes what was missing, right?
Well, what it will do though, that will plot historically when you had a pinch point in your cash flow.
Yeah.
So we can say to our client and structure a facility in the right way to say, right, we know 25th of the month, that's when you pay commissions, that's when you pay your HMRC, that's where you pay your rent or whatever it is. We know that there's a pinch point then, so we can then plan that. But that's AI pulling that data out from us and showing us that in a nice, easy way to be able to present to our client.
Yeah, because you could do it, but it would take you forever to do it through all your portfolio of clients.
Yeah, we'd have somebody out there doing it.
All day long, yeah. No, fair enough. So what do you guys do then in terms of, because obviously we talk about this relationship-based kind of model that everybody wants, and when we do want that, right? Everybody likes that human touch and stuff. So what are you guys doing then as an invoice financing company to support your clients? Sure, just funding their invoices and kind of being like, good luck to you. Yeah. What are the value add stuff that you guys are doing as a business?
Yeah, well,
and I know you don't like talking too much about kind of what's
trying to sell too much. No. I think it's in the first bit that we get right is we make sure that we onboard a client in the right way. So we make sure the facility's right, we make sure we understand what a client does, what they require from the facility, and then the facility's then onboarded in the right way. So then when our operations team get involved, everything is understood, everybody's happy with the facility. So it starts off on a really good footing. From there then, it's about us just doing our job right on behalf of our client and being there when they need us. I say quite often that really we should be no more than an hour a week involvement with our client. They should be pushing the timesheet through, we spin the payroll, we check in, we get it done, we move on. That keeps it efficient for us, but it also allows our client then to go and do their day job and grow the business and do what they need to do. So if our facilities are taking longer than a day to work for our clients, that something's not right somewhere. So the point to that is we carefully and work very hard at looking after our clients so it just works smoothly, so almost that we don't have to speak very regularly on a day-to-day basis because it all just works. And some of that is very difficult to do, and we try and make it look easy so that we're not sort of taking up too much of our clients' time. So we do try and make some of the easy stuff look some of the difficult stuff look easy. Yeah.
No, that's fair.
And the team are very engaged as well, so every client gets a crew of people that are their contacts. So we have a team of 3 or 4 looking after each client, and they're the contacts that look after that client every week. So we've got continuity of service. Everybody knows what our client does, who the customers are, any other kind of foibles to how they operate, and it just makes it work.
Yeah, you're replicating the agency model, right? Again,
of course,
as agencies, we always like to keep that one point of contact, especially when you're in a bigger business. You don't want the client to have to go to multiple people to get the same answer. So
coming back to the entrepreneurial side as well, we have clients who grow, and a lot of clients who grow quite quickly. So we need to be there to support that quickly and efficiently if our client needs a bigger facility from us. So we're also very good at making sure we can grow quickly with our clients when they're growing as well, and we just be that supportive lender right the way through the journey.
So you mentioned a few times then that you've got customers in your portfolio that are growing and are bucking the trend. What are they doing differently, or what are they doing right? Differently is probably unfair. What are they doing right that you guys are seeing from your side?
Yeah. Probably falls into 2 camps. I think firstly, supporting new agencies where you've got a really good recruiter that has come out of a bigger player who wants to go on their own, and they can show the historical performance that they've had. So you've got really good top performers going on their own. So they tend to grow quite quickly. What you've got with more established clients, and it's where we've helped on a few occasions with our clients now, is they are either organically grow with more heads in the business, or they acquire to grow. And we've helped clients to acquire businesses and sort of scale out from there, either into different parts of the UK or abroad. We've got clients at the moment that we're talking to about going into Southern Ireland or the US or Holland, Germany. So we're on hand to help with some of that as well. And again, it's a sectoral thing, I think, as well. We've seen some great success stories in various sectors.
I'm gonna ask you which ones, because obviously there's gonna be people out there, wanting to move sector or wanting to try something else.
Yeah.
So which sectors are performing well at the minute?
I think notwithstanding 2023 and a few pockets of blips along the way, I think we still see strong growth in tech and IT, healthcare and education, are the three areas where we do see that growth. We've got some great agencies in that space as well. Again, it's a consultative type approach, but that's where we've seen some real good success stories in those sectors.
Healthcare sounds like a tough crack, though, right? In terms of that's where you talk about your labour shortages. That's a big labour short market and stuff. So
it is.
What are you seeing in terms of within that? Let's take the healthcare sector then. What are the agencies that are doing well? What are they doing differently?
Yeah.
What are they getting right?
Well, Brexit firstly affected the staff pool.
Yeah.
Because massively. a lot of people who are working in certainly in the NHS left the UK for want of a better phrase. But they are tapping into workers who can either come into the UK or are in the UK. We have agencies, if you take NHS for example, who operate on framework and off framework, and they might have two different businesses set up, two different structures, the way they operate with the NHS. And what they then do is they embed themselves into the particular hospital or the particular trust that they work with. So we see that definitely.
Again, that's that consultancy and relationship piece, right?
Yeah.
You only become an embedded partner if you're constantly there and you're constantly kind of front of mind.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, if you take the tech space, there's a big push. We work with a lot of tech and IT agencies. There's a big push for them to try to provide RPO services to their clients, so they're embedded with an end customer. You see statement of work type projects within the agencies. So, for example, we might have an agency that is working with Deloitte. Say, right, we've got an IT project that's going to take 9 months. You're our agency. You have a statement of works. You're our internal RPO, and then it works from there. Certainly, with some of our larger agencies that operate like that, that's where they're creating value within their business as well. So if there is an eye on an exit in the future, having SOWs, RPO arrangements with their end clients, and it's not right for every sector, but certainly in tech and IT, that really does great value.
It's something to aim for, though, isn't it? That's the difference. Is sort of, if you're consistently doing the same thing, expecting different results, then you're going to be disappointed. But
of course,
it sounds like what you're describing there is that the agency owners and the businesses have identified areas that speak to their specialisms and their skill set, and have then attacked that, right?
Yeah.
But we're really good at candidate generation. I'll speak to I do some mentoring work for a tech agency in just on the outskirts of London, and they've been doing it for 11 years. 6 of them, recruitment's basically something that they do to fund their kind of other shit that they like to do, right? And he was like, we're just struggling this year, just don't know what's going on. And it's like, right, okay, and like, what are you trying? And we basically landed on the fact that they're very good at candidate generation, like extremely good at finding the most niche developers and the most niche architects in the world, and getting them and convincing them to come and do a piece of work. But they just suck at business development. And they were like, what do we do? And I was like, well, look, you could spend hundreds and thousands on training yourself to be better business developers, or bringing in an outsourced business development team. We just double down on the fact that you're really good at candidate generation, and actually focus on, how do I make double the revenue out of my existing client base? So I'm going to go back to them. I need to embed myself further and actually focus on the business relationship piece rather than the new business development, because that's getting increasingly harder to win. Whereas the existing customer base, who have already bought from you, who have already used your services, and hopefully should be pleased with your services, will be more than happy to give you more work if you actually just approach them and were brave enough to go, can we do some more work?
I agree, totally agree. And I think you'll find, if you ask the question, a lot of end clients might not want to deal with 25 agencies, they might want to deal with 6. So there's opportunities there if you're asking the right questions.
That's it.
Yeah.
So there you go. So where do you think we're going to be this time next year then? What's the rest of 2024 going to pan out like, do you think?
Yeah,
because you were optimistic last time we met.
Yeah.
Look how that you turned out.
Well, I was
Well, it went well for you
optimistic.
guys.
I was optimistic last time, and then Liz Truss came along.
Yes, that was literally a matter of weeks after we had you on the podcast as well.
It was. So you never quite know what's around the corner, do you? But notwithstanding world events, we're clearly potentially looking at a change of government. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, and in particular how that affects business, which is going to be an interesting play. The conversations I'm having with recruiters, there is an air of optimism, I have to say, notwithstanding the crazy world we live in.
Again, you said this last time, because we're an optimistic bunch.
Yeah,
for salespeople, we have to be optimistic. What salesperson in the world is going to walk around kicking a can and be like, "Oh shit, I hate my life."
I was with a guy yesterday. He's got a £30 million turnover business, been trading 13 years. He said to me with his FD, he thinks the next 6 years is going to be quite good and positive for recruitment. Now, who knows? But I think there'll be more twists and turns, and I think there'll be more things that come out of left field. But I still believe that there's this real air of optimism within the sector that it can be successful. And recruitment has always filled that gap, hasn't it? It's always filled the gap, and I can't see that changing in the UK for the foreseeable. I really can't.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, it's an interesting time, I think, in the industry. What I think is disappointing and actually plays in favour of agency is businesses still seem to see internal talent acquisition teams as disposable and will ramp up in-house recruiters when they need to deliver, 20, 30, 50 heads in a short period of time, and then we'll happily let them go. And I think whilst that kind of mentality continues, where they don't see the value or the extended value in in-house recruiters, agencies will always have a place at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the bit that worries me, is because there are now businesses cottoning on to the fact that, hang on a minute, these guys know our business, they know our people, and they can do a lot more than just fill spots and gaps. Let's get them more embedded into the HR function or the wider function of the business. The people teams. And I think that's where agencies are going to start to kind of really need to add that additional value, because how else do you embed yourself as a go-to partner? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you want to, in those circumstances, you want to almost be an extension of that business, don't you? But it is challenging. There are some good in-house teams out there, which kind of doesn't help the sector, but
I think it does help the sector. Because look, you're right. There's new businesses opening up all the time, but what we also seem to don't like talking about is that recruitment company insolvencies are at an all-time high for the third year in a row. So there's also a lot of recruitment agencies shutting down, and I think the trend is that those that are not adding value and those that are not doing the right things and the right behaviours and the fundamentals correctly, and they got so used to just I'll fire out a mail shot, I get 6 interviews, this is easy, I'm just going to do this for the next year. They're the ones that are now struggling or have struggled historically and started to wind down. And I think that, whilst there's businesses out there that are really embedding those HR teams and in-house recruiters, those in-house recruiters that are really good accept the need for agencies and accept the value that they bring. But what they want is a talent partner. What they want is people that understand that I don't need you to spec to line. What I need you to do is send me a good candidate, right? And accept that if I'm able to use the budget to pay your fee, then I will do that, right? But there'll be times where I can't do that. And I think what's going to happen over time is exactly that those relationships where agencies work well with in-house will strengthen, and they'll do exactly what you said there and become partners. And then the others that are just used to kind of going, look, I just want 20 requisitions, give me 20 TIG welders and I'll fill 20 TIG welders all day long. Your time's running out. It really is.
We operate in a similar way. We have an in-house team, but we complement that with going out to certain agencies at certain times, and obviously we're quite niche in what we do, but we operate in a similar way.
Because there's no need not to, right?
Yeah.
But there you go. Yeah. Right, look, is there anything you guys got going on that you want to talk about, that you want to mention to anyone listening?
Yeah, well, we're still very much on an expansion plan. We're still growing very quickly.
So if you're an invoice financing business looking for a buyer,
who knows? Never say never. But no, we're growing really quickly. The team's growing really quickly. We continue to service our clients. We've had some really good campaigns in the last year within the IT and tech space, healthcare and education. all sectors where there's a real strong need for staff, where recruitment fills the gap. So we've had some really good agencies that have joined us during that time, following those campaigns that we've done. But from our perspective, it's still doing things like this. You know, people still don't know who we are. So we're very much trying to bang the drum, get the word out there about Zodeq. It's a really buoyant market for us and our competitors. You know, people are busy. There's a lot knocking around. So for us, we just want to grab our share of the market as best as we can.
Yeah. And look, as the business expands and grows with new customers, the need for staff grows and expands as well, right?
Of course,
so if you're in that investment financing space at the minute, then reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go, mate. Appreciate that. We'll stop when we say something we shouldn't do. That's been good, mate. Appreciate that.
Thanks for coming over. Appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, that was good. Just over the 40-minute mark.